Today is going to be a little bit about changing perspective. Sometimes it's nice just to sort of turn things around and see them from a different point of view. So we'll do some poses that we might normally do at the end and the beginning. We'll sort of look at poses in a different way. And we're moving towards standing splits on the wall. No wall needed. If you don't have it, you can work without it. And possibly splits, Hanumanasana. And don't worry, they're not my poses either. So getting to those peak poses aren't necessarily our goal, but it's a nice sort of way to know where we're going in our mind's eye. We can have an idea of what we're trying to get out of every pose. So if we haven't met, I'm Jennifer Elliott, and this is VinYin or Vinyasa and Yin. So the first 40 minutes or so will be Vinyasa with some Yin thrown in there, because again, we're changing perspectives. And then at the end, it'll be the straight Yin. So let's get started. So again, since we're shifting perspectives or doing something different than we would normally, I'm going to have you start with legs in the air. So specifically legs in the air if you can versus up the wall. So if you have a block, great. If you don't have a block, you could roll up a blanket or have a couch cushion, or just simply legs up to the ceiling. So whatever is going to work for you. And we'll get started with the legs in the air. So prop under the hips if that's available, feet to the ceiling, or whatever is working for you. Just take a few moments here. So I love this theme of shifting perspective, seeing things from a different point of view. And so sometimes it just requires us to see something from the other side. And so this may or may not feel grounding to you, but let the eyes close. And just start to bring your attention into your space, whatever that space is for you. And you may have things going on around you, whether you're inside or outside, or you have people around you, or just maybe even clutter of the house, or even no clutter of the house. With the eyes closed, you still feel that maybe you're noticing those things around you. So just imagine that your universe is your map. And see if your mind can just wrap itself around that. So your whole universe is just your map for right now. And then take that awareness into the third dimension. So not just sort of on this flat surface of the mat, but allow yourself to move up and sort of bring your attention to the height of the legs and sort of moving into that part of space. A little proprioception for the legs. And as you're here, just start to unhinge the jaw. Let the eyes soften. And just take a few moments to really set your intention. Head below the heart creates a moment for self-reflection, for tuning in. You can set your attention around that. And let's take a nice big inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and let it out. And again, in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it out. In through the nose. Hold. Sip a bit more breath in through the nose. Sip a bit more breath in. Open the mouth and let it out. One more. In through the nose. And out. Okay, blink the eyes open. How are we doing? Go ahead and bend your knees. And then hold on to your right knee. Set your left foot onto the floor. Now it can be just sort of knee bent foot on the floor like you're moving into bridge, or you can straighten that leg out. You can even hover it. So again, we're starting to work our practice towards splits, Hanumanasana. We really want to get deep into those hip flexors today, so we'll do a lot of work on that. Depending on how you're feeling in your lower back, you might even raise your prop up. If you have no prop underneath you, just do this without the prop. You can have a nice flat back on the ground, especially if you have anything going on in the low back. And then whether you're flat on your back or on a little lift like I am, maybe reach your left arm behind you and just continue to get the length on that whole left side. And take a couple of breaths. You're really reaching through that left heel. That may be too much for you right away, but if you're there, you don't have to rest the foot. You can really reach through it. We'll take one more breath here. And then set your left foot onto the ground, right foot onto the ground, and we'll switch sides. So pull the left knee into your chest, straighten the right leg out, or keep it bent, your choice. A couple breaths here. And check in. It may not be appropriate to have that prop higher. Maybe you're taking some nice even breaths, getting a little deeper into the abdomen. The right arm might reach behind you as you really drive through the right heel. Just a few more breaths here. All right, now bend your knees, place both feet onto the floor, arms by your sides, and find your supported bridge. You can stay here, but we want to start activating muscles now. So if it's okay for you, reach for the sides of the mat, pull the mat tight underneath you, walk the shoulders underneath. You can just look at the ceiling so you're not trying to look at me or the screen, and then root through your heels as you gently lift your hips up off the prop. Engage the inner thighs until those thigh bones are parallel, and see if you can really isometrically drag the heels towards your seat, just to engage the hamstrings and the glutes. Paint your spine down if you had lifted it off your prop. We'll do that one more time. So root through your feet, gently lift your pelvis. You might even move that prop out from underneath you. Try to really press firmly through all four corners of your feet, kneecaps pointing directly forward. And then slowly paint your spine down one vertebrae at a time until you're all the way down to the ground. Okay, pull your right knee into your chest again, left leg straight, Ekapada Appanasana. So similar to what we just did on a prop, but we're adding on. As you interlace your hands, pardon me, on top of the knees, slide it down to the right shin, so you're right in the middle of the muscle. Flex through both feet, so draw the toes back to you on both legs. Resist the right shin up into the hands. Maybe that foot will jump a little bit as you start to activate the muscles. Raise your left foot off the floor just an inch. Direct your pubic bone towards your belly button. Feel the low back anchor. Take an inhale. Exhale, curl forehead up to meet the knee. Breathe. Option to release your hands forward, but not necessary. Hollow out the belly. Lift yourself up just a little higher. Hold on to the leg if you had reached forward. Lower down, interlace your hands underneath the knee. Keep the knee bent. Drive your heel forward. So again, it's like we did in the bridge. We want the hamstrings to fire. So push your thighs much into the hands as you can, like you want to break the connection of your interlaced hands. And now we'll straighten up the leg. Point, flex, rotate through the ankle. And then if you have a strap, it's not really necessary, but if you have a strap, let's go ahead and slide it over the right foot. Reach the leg to the ceiling. So as we work towards splits, forward splits, again, whether that's your pose or not, don't worry, but we'll be doing a lot to open the hamstrings and the hip flexors. So that'll be our common theme throughout. Let's take our straps into the left hand, cross the right leg over the body, and let's just enjoy a nice twist. Bring yourself to center. both knees into your chest. If you have that strap, move it away. We'll do the second side. So hold on to the left leg, lower the right leg down. Ekapada Apanasana. Interlace your hands as you slide them down to the shin. Flex through the feet and resist. Press your shin up into your hands. Try to relax your jaw. A lot of times when we start to activate the hands and the arms, the jaw tenses, so let it go. Pick up the right leg, pubic bone to navel, inhale. Exhale, curl, forehead to knee, breathe. Now you can stay here or add a little extra by separating those hands and reaching forward. Hollow out the belly, lift up a little bit higher. Hold on if you weren't, lower the head, lower the heel. Keep the left knee bent, just interlace behind the bent knee and drive your heel forward. Think you want to have that good bend in the knee, 90 degrees, just like in bridge. You can feel it. You can feel the backs of the thigh warming as you try to break the connection of your interlaced fingers. Straighten up the leg now. Point, flex, rotate. And if you'd like, use your strap. So sometimes I don't like to tell you where you're going because then there's an expectation versus just sort of moving into it, sort of randomly finding yourself there as a surprise. Let's go ahead and take the straps to the right hand and cross it over. Take your twist. So sometimes when we have an expectation and we don't meet it, we create sort of our own suffering. We sort of took that arbitrary goal and we're upset that we didn't meet it. And so today, see if you can shift that perspective. Think less about maybe getting to our goal and more about just being present in the practice. All right, bring your leg to center. Pull both knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice hug. Hands under the knees, rock forward and back, and find your way to seated. Okay, nicely done. So find your way to tabletop, hands and knees, and if you're already there, you can just start moving into a little cat-cow. Otherwise, I will join you momentarily. Okay. So from your table pose, spread your fingers wide, really root down through your palms. Take an inhale, pull your chest forward as you reach your tailbone back. Exhale, round, drive the navel in. Inhale, heart forward, lift the navel in as you reach the tailbone back. And exhale, round. All right, inhale, lift the heart, gaze up. Pause here, pull the belly in so we're not dumping into the lower back. And then you're gonna take the right leg and just lift it, but keep that bend in the knee. So try to lift your leg higher, flex through the foot and drive it up as if it's pushing in towards the ceiling. Lift the navel in, and then maybe left hand reaches back for the ankle. Press the foot into the hand, lift the heart. On this one I'm okay, but there will be some other poses where I'm gonna want that blanket under the knee. So you may want it here. You may wanna just have it available for the next one. So I'm pressing the foot into the hand, I'm lifting the belly in. If holding the foot, it feels like too much, you can just keep driving the heel to the ceiling. Release wherever you are, hands and knees, cat-cow. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, round spine. Okay, come to center. Raise your left leg up. Keep the knee bent. Take your time. And try to really flex the foot. Drive through the heel. Get those hamstrings to fire. The warmer they are, the happier they are to stretch. Lift your navel in and up, so don't let your lower back drop. And this could be plenty. Where some of you will take that opposite right hand, reach back for the foot, press the foot into the hand. It's really common to get Charlie horses here, so if you're not ready, that's okay. Just do the best you can. Keep lifting that navel in, pressing the foot into the hand. Gently release. Cat-cow. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, round spine. Press all the way back to child's pose. Spread wide through the fingers, really root down through the hands. And come up hands and knees from there. Look up, tuck the toes under. Lift up and back, downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Paddle out the feet, couple breaths. Raise your right leg up. Stop at halfway. This is usually where I stop you, but because we're doing things a little differently today, let's let the hip open. Take your right leg as high to the ceiling as it wants to go, and then bend your right knee. Push your foot behind you, just like we did in the last pose. Slowly straighten and unwind, and set the foot down. Okay, side two, left leg up. You can stop at halfway just to feel the difference. And then once you go higher than that, the hip tends to open. Bend your knee, push your foot behind you, belly in. Maybe keep a little micro bend on that standing leg. And slowly return. Shift forward into plank. Let's take a few breaths here. If this feels like a lot right away, then just come onto your knees and breathe. From plank or knees, tip forward, go slow to the floor. Elbows hug the body the whole way down. When you arrive on your belly, reach back through your toes, thumb next to the breast line. Inhale, lift your heart into a low cobra and release. Again, inhale, lift the heart, navel lifts and release. One more, inhale, lift the heart, maybe lift the thighs if you're ready for up dog. We have plenty of opportunities. It doesn't have to be here. Lift up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, take a few breaths. Your hands are shoulder width apart, feet are hip width apart. Spread wide through your fingers. Check that your wrist creases are parallel to the front of the mat. Press more weight into the index finger and the thumb side of the hand and spin the inner thighs back. Raise your right leg up to the height of the hip. Inhale. Exhale, knee to nose, shift forward. Inhale the leg back. Exhale, knee to nose. One more. Knee to nose, step the foot next to the right thumb tip. Drop the back knee down. And this is where I'm actually going to want a blanket for myself. So as you drop the knee down for Anjaneyasana, see if you can keep the back toes tucked under. That may or may not be for you, but we want to sort of press more through the back heel. It just gives us a deeper stretch on this front left thigh. Again, make changes if that feels too extreme. Send the arms high, Anjaneyasana, and see if you can lift frontal hip bones up. Sink a little bit deeper, but every time you sink, can you continue to lift the pelvis? Arms reach, find your breath. All right, 2 more breaths. And release your hands to the floor. Hinge back, untuck the back toes, pick up the front toes. Keep a little bend in your front knee and dig that right heel isometrically back as you pull your chest forward. Ardha Hanumanasana, so our half forward split. So this is 1/2 of our peak pose. Good news, we're already almost there. All right, shift forward, step to plank. Pause here. If you want to take a vinyasa already, go for it. I'm just going to stay a little longer in plank to add a little bit to the core. Lift the inner thighs if you're in plank. Send the tailbone back, look forward. And however you arrive, downward facing dog. The left leg lifts. Take an inhale. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale the leg back. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale back. Make sure you're just going that halfway point. Exhale, knee to nose. Step the foot next to the left thumb tip. Drop the back knee down. Pat it if you need. You can always double that mat over if a blanket's not available. Come on up, Anjaneyasana. Can you keep the back toes tucked under and really press out through that back heel? Lift the frontal hip bones. Reach up through the torso and breathe. Inhale here, exhale, hands down. Hinge back, half forward splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. All right, shift to plank, top of your push-up. If you want, take a vinyasa. You can lower chaturanga. Some of you will scrub the toes back, go right into up dog. I'm not resting on this blanket, I'm trying to lift away from it. Find your way into down dog if you weren't already there. High to your toes. Bend your knees, step or hop, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Root to rise. Reach the arms to the sky. Palms press, navel in and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Okay, hopefully we're getting warm. So bring your feet together, top of the mat, arms by your sides. Surya Namaskar, a sun salute. Take an inhale. Arms rise, palms press at the top. Exhale, forward fold. Soften the knees on the way down. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, step to plank. Move through your vinyasa. Go slow these first rounds. You can lower to the floor or just halfway. Inhale your up dog or back bend of choice. Exhale, downward facing dog. We're here 5 breaths. So set your hands and your feet up like we did earlier. Pardon me, see if you can rebound those forearms up away from the mat. Spin the biceps, the inner upper arms forward. Wrap the triceps, the outer upper arms back. Inner thighs, spin back. Belly lifts in. Inhale high to your toes. Exhale, bend your knees, step or hop, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Root to rise. Reach the arms to the sky. Palms press, navel in and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Okay, round 2. Inhale, arms reach. Surya Namaskar. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. If you'd like, exhale, jump chaturanga. Inhale your back bend. Exhale, down dog. 5 breaths. Inhale high to your toes. Exhale, bend your knees, step or hop. Top of the mat. Inhale up halfway, exhale, fold. Root to rise, reach the arms to the sky. Palms press, navel in and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Okay, arms reach, Uttita Hastasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, up dog, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Exhale, down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Take your breaths here. High to your toes, bend your knees, step or hop, top of the mat. Inhale up halfway, exhale, fold. Root to rise, reach the arms to the sky. Palms press, navel in and up. Exhale, hands to heart. Okay, so some of you know me well enough to know that normally I say do 3 rounds on your own, but we're changing perspective, so we're not gonna do that. We did 1 less, we're okay with that. So bring yourself to the center of your mat or wherever you have space. We're gonna bring our feet together, sit back into chair pose, Utkatasana. Shift the weight back. Pick up the toes just enough that the weight is really in the heels. Find your breath. When you rise, bring your right knee up with you into Tadasana. Pause there. And then just sweep the right hand down, catch the right ankle in your hand. Press the foot into the hand and try to take the bent knee in line or behind the straight leg. Lift to the frontal hip bones. Stay here, or you're welcome to tip it forward. Now in this pose, my hips are trying to open to the side. I'm going to see if I can keep them square, but that's challenging for me. The hips for all of us generally want to open. Now as you come back to center, cross right ankle over left knee, figure 4, and sit back slowly into chair. Breathe. All right, this was too much for your knee. You can do just tree pose. So part of this practice as well is not really these poses. If you do them, fine, but really our focus is finding balance. So a lot of balance poses today and a lot of shifting the way we normally do things. So stand up slowly, arms by your sides, and rest. Okay, so we'll do the other side. Feet together, arms by your sides. Remember, our main goal of this is just balance. So if you need to change how you're balancing, go with that. Sit back, chair. Slowly rise, left leg comes up with you. Left hand sweeps down, catch the outer ankle in the hand. And take time, you can even use the wall. Hand can be on the wall, you can do this on your belly if the balance isn't for you. Otherwise, start to press the foot into the hand. Try to keep those hips square, they're gonna wanna open. Tip forward if you'd like. I'm going to use the wall so I can demonstrate. Oftentimes we get real open. That's a different pose. We will do that in a moment. But try to keep your hips square as you lift your heart, belly in. Slowly come up. Figure 4 chair or tree, or just enjoy a rest. But wherever you are, even if you're resting, find a drishti in front of you. Can you find a focus and just really lock your eyes in? Slowly rise, arms by your sides. Okay, we're going to make our way to down dog. You can simply step into down dog, or we'll come from the top of our mat in a half salutation. So inhale, sit back, chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, step or jump back. Vinyasa, or go right to down dog, yogi's choice. Inhale the right leg up halfway. Exhale, step it to the center of the hands, right in the middle. Anchor the back heel down, front heel intersects back arch. Come on up, warrior 2. All right, so check out again, front heel intersects back arch. Sink as deep as you can into that lunge. Open the heart wide, arms out to the sides. If you follow my chakra series, we're in the third eye. So it's all that balance and proprioception. And even in this pose, you might explore closing your eyes. Can you find alignment of the spine without having to see where those limbs are, where the spine is? How do we know where our body is in space and time? When you feel you have it, check it out. Is it where you thought it was? And then straighten up the right leg. Kick the hips back. Start to reach towards the front of your mat. And maybe have a little tiny micro bend on your front knee if you tend to hyperextend like I do. Place your right hand either on the floor or block outside of the right ankle. Shift the hips back as you bring that top arm high. One of our themes today is balance, but if balance is not for you, you can stay here. Otherwise, bend your front knee, move that prop forward about a foot, pick up the back leg, and then maybe bend the knee, reach back for the ankle, Shavasana. Now the hip is open. Our orientation is different though. Straighten the leg, step it back mindfully, warrior two. Inhale, reverse. Exhale to the floor. From here, step into plank, maybe into side plank. If anyone wants to bend the right knee, set the foot on the floor behind you, lift the hips like bridge, and reach the right arm to the front of the mat. Bring the right hand back, plank pose, yogi's choice, vinyasa, a set of push-ups, or right to down dog. Take a few breaths. Inhale, the left leg lifts just to the height of the hip. Exhale, step it forward, right to the center of the hands. Anchor the back heel down, come on up, warrior two. Now you know where we're going, so right away close the eyes and see if you can use that proprioception, that sixth sense, your awareness of your body in space and time to find your pose. And even if you don't know what your pose is supposed to be, blink the eyes open and just look and just see if those limbs were where you thought they were. A lot of it is just getting more connected with our body in space and time. Straighten up the left leg, kick the hips back, reach, lean towards the front of your mat, maybe a little micro bend in the knee. Set yourself up for triangle pose, Trikonasana. Maybe adding that prop. You can stay or step it up into Ardha Chandrasana. Bending the knee, reaching for the ankle, Shavasana if you'd like. Step back mindfully, warrior two. Inhale, reverse. Exhale to the floor. Step to plank. Maybe side plank on the right side. Optional. Maybe bend your top knee, foot on the floor behind you. Lift your hips and reach. Unwind, plank, vinyasa, or right to down dog. Let's walk our hands all the way back towards our heels. A big forward fold to the back of the mat. You can bend your knees quite a lot. See if you can stand on your hands. Hastasana. If that's not for you, grab the elbows. Let the head hang. Hands to your hips, elbows to the sky. Lead with your heart. Come all the way up. All right. Step to the side of your mat. You can face whichever direction makes sense for you, possibly towards me, but that doesn't need to happen. Step your feet wide, a good 4 or 5 feet apart, and you'll notice my feet naturally are wanting to turn out, which puts less space in the lower back. So I'm going to turn my feet straight forward, but really I want the short outside edge of the foot parallel with the edges of the mat and on the same line, more or less. Hug the inner thighs together. Lift your chest, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Keep your hands on your hips if this is okay for you. We're adding balance into this. Remember that sort of proprioception and finding balance. So firm the outer ankles in. Hug the inner thighs in. You can keep hands on hips. You can interlace hands, whatever you'd like. But keep the balance or hands to the ground if that makes more sense for you. If you can bring your hands to the floor, instead of them being in front of you, walk the hands between the legs and have the fingertips point behind you. Just grip the floor with the finger pads, hug the inner thighs. Maybe you can draw in a little bit more. Hands on hips, elbows to the sky. Lead with your heart and come all the way up to standing. Okay, how are we doing? Find your way back, feet together, top of the mat. Okay, so feet are together, top of the mat. Take an inhale, sit back chair. We'll take our last standing pose, or sequence rather. Exhale, forward fold. Don't get too excited. Inhale up halfway. If you want a vinyasa, take it. Otherwise, just go right to down dog. So yogi's choice. Inhale, your right leg lifts, height of the hip. Exhale, step your foot next to your right thumb tip. All right, now from there, take your back foot a little left and up, setting it up for warrior one, just making sure you're not on a tightrope. And then come on up, warrior one. Put hands on hips for a moment. So warrior one, I personally find, is one of the hardest lunges. And it's actually very similar to what we're going to find in our splits. So notice how the hips, they're not wanting to square. They feel like they want to turn because it's a challenging pose. I'm going to work towards squaring the hips, but by spinning the left inner thigh back. Another reason I took a slightly wider stance for my feet, gave my hips and low back some space. I want to lift the frontal hip bones, so stretching that back thigh as I sink in. And then reaching the arms up, belly in, lengthen. And it's hard. The more we have that back heel rooted, the less this front leg wants to bend. Let's come up onto the back toes. It'll make it a little easier to square the hips. Bend the back knee generously. Sink a little deeper into your crescent. Continue to get that front thigh stretch. Hands on hips is fine. Inhale, arms reach. Lift and press out through the back heel. Exhale, fold. Bring your hands down to the floor or even to your props. Hinge back as you pick up those front toes, wide pyramids. My back heel isn't rooted, my front toes are lifted. And I'm going to scissor the thighs together to square the hips. Chest pulls forward. Now I'm going to keep this, but I want my feet rooted, and I need to shorten my stance in order to do that. So I'm going to keep my feet not on the tightrope, but just the outsides of it. Hands on the floor or blocks. Square the hips, pulling the right hip back. Chest is forward. And then I'm going to try to fold in. Now if I can, I'm going to take my fingertips and reach back. Fingertips face behind me. So I root into the fingers and pull the chest forward. And our goal here is to stretch the hamstrings and have head below the heart. So if any of these little add-ons with the fingers or props don't work for you, or at least not in this moment, just skip them. You can take any version of this Parsvottanasana. All right, hands forward on floor or blocks. We'll see what I got. Step up, so just pick up the back leg to hip height. We're not here too long because I know the leg is tired. But we're going to move into standing splits, our first version of it. Now, I'm going to place my hands on the ground. Now, when we go to lift up the back leg, it tends to want to open. It looks like it can get higher. So I encourage you, it's not going to look as pretty as you want, Mine's about an L shape, but see if you can fold towards your front leg, maybe even walk the fingertips back. Whew, and keep the hips square. It's okay if it doesn't look like what you want. One more breath. Soften the front knee, step way back, lunge. Down dog. You can take this right leg, reach it to the sky, open up the hip. Bend your knee, push your foot behind you, and if you'd like, flip the dog. Unwind. Downward facing dog. Okay, not so bad, right? Just side two. So inhale, left leg up halfway. Exhale, step it next to the left thumb tip. Important, we're not just dropping the heel down. This is too much on a tightrope. I'm moving that right foot over and up before I rise. Warrior one. Sink in, and again, remember, it's hard to lift those frontal hip bones. Move that right hip forward. Imagine this was already your splits. You know, mine isn't very successful, that's okay. Stiffer bodies are oftentimes better yoga bodies because we can really feel all those areas that we're getting into. Limber bodies are great, but sometimes they may not be able to feel those subtleties because they're able to move into those things a bit more easily. So if you're feeling tight, use that for your practice. All right, come up onto the back toes, sink in, lift your frontal hip bones. So hopefully you're warm. I'm warm, but I purposely didn't let my air conditioning go on so I could warm up my muscles for this practice. So hopefully you're doing the same. Bend the back knee, sink a little deeper. Gaze up, palms press. Bring the hands down. Hinge back, pick up the front toes. Couple of breaths. Shorten the stance. Hug the inner thighs. As you fold, you can place those hands down. And then let's step up. Now you can float or do anything else you'd like, but we're moving towards those standing splits. Now some of you, very easily that leg lifts. Great, good for you. If you're like me, it doesn't go very far, especially if we're being honest in the hips. Try to keep the hips square, even if that means it doesn't look as successful with that leg not as high. That's fine. All right, step back. Down dog, left leg lifts to the sky. Open the hip, bend the knee. Maybe flip the dog, conscious of your space and props. And flip it back over. And child's pose. All right. Nicely done, yogis. So if you have a wall, we're going to use the wall. It's just for one pose. So if you don't have the wall, no big deal. I'm not even going to move my mat. So we're going to do standing splits on the wall. It's basically just like a down dog with one leg in the air. So you can do that if you don't have a wall. And then we'll definitely get to actual splits, which again, you don't have to do if it's not in your body. But this is preparing us. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place, normally I'd move my mat, but I'm not going to be here long, so I'm just being lazy. But I'm going to take down dog with my heels at the molding. So my toes are down, my heels are up. I think I've got enough mat space here. Then I'm just going to take my right leg and reach it up the wall. Again, I don't want the hip to open. I'm going to try to keep my hips square. And this may be plenty. If you feel like going closer or deeper, point the toes up so the top of the foot is on the wall and walk your hands in as close as you feel like going for your standing splits. Now, I don't know about you, but my standing splits are much more successful at the wall than they are in the center of the room. come out early, it's child's pose. Slowly walk out. Take child's pose, or if that's too much head below the heart, sit upright. Okay. Side 2, whatever version of this you're taking. So again, down dog, left leg goes up the wall. You can be on the toes, but we want to square the hips. Eventually point the toes up, walk in only as far as your hamstrings and hip flexors will allow. Forward. Whew. And rest, child's pose, or just rest in your pose. Okay. So we're going to move into single pigeon. We're now moving into our yin poses for the last bit of practice here. So I'm going to use my timer. As we move into pigeon, if it's not for you, you can do thread the needle. But we're still continuing to move towards our peak, even though we're sort of past our heated practice. So find your way into pigeon. We've got our timer set for 3 minutes. If you're not doing pigeon, you can do thread the needle. So how have we been doing? We work towards a peak pose. I have sort of a theme of where we're going. We all have different bodies. We all have different bone structure. We all have different muscle structure. You might have injuries or scar tissue, or just not feeling as strong or as limber that day. And for all of those reasons, the peak pose is never really the goal. The goal is sort of meeting yourself where you are. Shifting your perspective. Change what your goal is. It's not the peak pose. It's about the breath. It's about the present. Right, now we're approaching halfway through this pose. If you're in thread the needle, you can stay there, or you can drop your legs to the left like it's a twist in your thread the needle. If you're in pigeon pose, consider walking yourself upright. At the very least, you can push into the top of the back foot, lift the navel in, and really work on getting that stretch across the whole left side. If you feel like you can move into this and reach for the back ankle, we've been doing all this work. Hip flexors, hamstrings, right? You can bind. And we're here about 10 more breaths, so whatever you choose. If what I gave you is not for you, do something to stretch that back thigh. Maybe a supported bridge again. Couple more breaths. All right, move slow, move to the other side. I'll change perspective and I'll face this way, why not? It's nice sometimes to face the back of your mat or a different point of view. It's funny, when we were in class in real life, Oftentimes, many of you had your spots that you love so much in the room. And if you changed your position, which was great for you, I almost wouldn't see you until the end of class. It was, my brain didn't even register because I was so used to seeing you in your spot. And so it's really good for the brain to shift things around, even if it's just a different point of view. All right, about 5 more breaths here, and then we'll make those changes if you're adding on. All right, so if you're in thread the needle, drop your legs to the other side. Or maybe you're in pigeon and you're lifting and lengthening. Bind or stretch that back thigh. If you want to get a deep stretch into this back thigh, but pigeon's not for you, you can do King Arthur at the wall. Or anything that's going to give you a good stretch in that back thigh. All right, 10 breaths left. We can do it. It's okay to be uncomfortable, not where you feel like there's an injury going to happen, but maybe something you have to breathe through, you have to sort of work through. It's through things that are uncomfortable we find growth. Things were always the same, you know how it is, you sort of start to space out. And so use those moments of change for your own personal growth. Okay, so we've arrived at our peak pose. Now it's the splits. Splits are not in my wheelhouse necessarily. So you'll see my level of splits and sort of how I'll work us into it. I have 2 blocks. It can be Ardha Hanumanasana. If you're like, nope, I have hamstring sensitivities, it's not for me. Take any other hip opener, that's fine. But what we're gonna do, if you have blocks, is send the right leg forward, left leg back. So just like that half forward splits we did in the beginning. And then send it back a little bit further. Now, I don't know if you're able to see, I'm not real deep in this pose. I'm not a splits person. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the block. This side I'm actually a little lower, so I can be on the block on the second height. And I'm gonna put it under my sit bone. I'm gonna make sure I'm more on the bone versus on the tissue. And I'm just gonna rest here. And then I'm gonna do the work that I did all through class. Digging the right heel in. I'm gonna work to square the hips forward just like we did when it was Warrior 1. Lifting up from the inner thigh. Maybe those arms lift, belly lifts. So it's the same as what we did in all those other poses. And this may be plenty, but if you've been here a little while, maybe you can lower that prop down. Maybe you're a little bit more ready. But take your time. Again, getting to the floor is not the goal. May not be available for all of us. That's fine. An attempt. I don't know if I'm ready, but we'll see. Nope. Some days I can get down on this side, but again, I'm listening to my body. It's not ready today, as warm as I am. Not the day. Let's take a couple more breaths. Lean a little right if you're on that block and it feels safe. Pull that back leg in. Whew, do you feel those hip flexors and hamstrings? Okay, let's do side 2. All right, left leg forward. I'm gonna shift perspectives, why not? Do the other side. So I already know this is not my better side as far as my hamstring flexibility. I feel like I'm a little better today. Oh, I am. Normally I have to sit up on this highest height of the block. So I'm just gonna do that here just so that you can see it. I have a little bend in my front knee because I tend to overlock it. I'm trying to use this to square my hips, lift my frontal hip bones, and actually having this height is really nice for my back knee. I can stabilize and really lift. Now, since I was feeling a little more flexible on the side, I'm going to attempt to go a little lower just to see if I can't make it even with side 1. And if this isn't a block, it could be a bolster. You may be out of this pose already and have legs at the wall or enjoying a rest. Belly in, which is fine. Where are you in this pose? No expectations. All right, go slow. You can unwind the way we did before. I'm gonna do it a different way of supporting myself and bringing my legs out. And then let's take a nice wide butterfly. So you can take the soles of your feet together. You can have the feet a little further away from you or closer to you. Closer to me actually feels better in the moment. Let's just do, we'll stay with our 3 minutes. You can always sit on a prop. You can sit tall or forward fold. So notice how you feel. You may have felt different about today's practice. Oftentimes we think of vinyasa as the heating part and yin as the cooling part. But sometimes we can shift it up a little bit, and even those yin postures, they can feel intense, right? And it's that tapas, that heat, which is our vehicle for change. We heat something, it changes. Hopefully we become more flexible with that heat, and if not, what becomes more flexible is our mind. If you're able to do a pretty deep forward fold, meaning just that you could have your elbows down and you could bring your hands up, you can bring your hands together into a prayer pose and have your thumbs just rest on, sort of if you take the bridge of your nose and you go up to where it meets the inner part of your eyebrow, you can press there and just give yourself a really nice release for your sinuses and for your eyes. The eyes closed. And just work on this sense of cooling down now. If it's tender, you have a little bit of sinus pressure, but if it's too much, you can go just a little wider, the thumbs. Use your breath. You've got about another 10 breaths here. All right, so really back yourself out. We'll take our last yin pose and then we'll move into shavasana. So I'm going to move into square or sukhasana. For some of you, this will be double pigeon. If none of these are for you, any hip opener is fine. We spent a lot of time sort of in the sagittal plane in this asymmetry, and so we just want to get a little bit of hip opening. Again, not my pose, so I have a little bit, I don't want to say that. My bones, the joints of my body don't necessarily allow it to visually look like maybe you might see in the magazines. There we go. That's a better statement. And we'll just be here 2 minutes because we don't have a lot of time before shavasana. And so in this pose, you're either crossing middle of the shins, or I'm stacking for double pigeon, foot on top of knee, knee on top of foot. And I'm trying to make sure this bottom foot is stacked. So even if I was crossing at the ankles, I would do the same thing. You can support that knee if that makes it a little bit more successful for me. But again, you'll notice I even caught myself. We sort of have this idea of what it should look like, and then we sort of measure ourselves against that. And so shifting perspective. This is the best pose for me. So I've made it to that perfect place. Now for me, because this feels like it's intense enough, I'm going to sit tall. Some of you may be folding all the way forward. Again, that's just personal preference. Maybe you close the eyes, release the jaw. And see if you can take the gaze. We've been working on proprioception, your sixth sense. Turn it in. What's happening on that inner landscape? Your thoughts, your experiences. And here, just another breath. All right, gently switch. The other leg in front, crossing at the shins or on top, whatever makes sense for you. And again, maybe close the eyes. And see if you can add a gentle meditation for these last 90 seconds. Count the breath like you're counting sheep. Not to fall asleep, but just to see how many breaths you can count before you become distracted. If you're distracted, start back over at one. we did, blink the eyes open. And then let's start to take any finishing pose you'd like. So maybe a seated forward fold or a happy baby. So just do those finishing poses that you'd like. When you come out of this, we'll be moving into Shavasana. So take a few moments, do your final pose. I'm going to set the timer for Shavasana because then it just allows all of us to relax. We'll be in Shavasana for 3 minutes. If you have any props like sandbags or any extra props you can use. If anyone remembers Paulette's studio that I used to work at like 15 years ago, these are her sandbags. I stole them, or I didn't steal them, she gave them to me. But I have some remnants of that studio. Okay, so get yourself set up in Shavasana. We're here 3 minutes. Close the eyes. Come full circle to where we began. What's different now? What's changed? Have you been able to feel like your mat was your universe? Just thinking about what's here and now in this space. Start to draw your attention back. And reach the arms overhead. Maybe yawn. Bend your knees. Make your way onto your side. Eyes are closed. You press yourself upright to seated. And as you find your final seat, draw your hands to your heart in gratitude for all the work your body has done. Let's lift our hearts, bow our heads. Namaste.